One thing that I feared the most after Horikita Compass is the possibility that Coenji will end up as a disappointing antagonist, just like Nagumo. After a lot of volume we spent investing in Nagumo stock, he was just forcefully written out of the story, leaving us with a lot of red just like the US stock market. Coenji's stock is still on the market, but since he has the same blonde hair as Nagumo, I'm afraid Coenji will follow his path and end up getting humiliated without even putting up a proper fight. It's not like anybody wants it to happen, but looking at Kinugasa's track record during the latter half of the second year arc, no one could say the same wouldn't happen to Coenji. Not only Coenji, the third year arc has a lot of things that we need to be worried about, so let's take a look at it one by one. Let's start with Coenji, since he had been teased to take some action in volume 12.5. For better or worse, Coenji is the only person who Ayanokoji admits that he has no idea how to predict. Coenji's intuition is remarkable, but he never has any intention to use it for the sake of the class, and just minds his own business. His mysterious character is the reason why a lot of readers hype him up to be stronger, or at least equal to Ayanokoji. Ayanokoji and Coenji do indeed have the same T-Rex size, but the ceiling of their ability is still a mystery. However, at this point in the story, it doesn't matter how strong Coenji actually is. It's fine even if he cannot put Ayanokoji down, but the most important thing is that Coenji needs to live up to his hype. He needs to give a proper fight that could somehow force Ayanokoji to rethink his action, and don't let him cry or beg just like what Kanzaki did. As long as Coenji gets his time to shine, I'm sure Coenji fans won't be too angry. Coenji's action will definitely become one of the most important aspects in the third year arc. Depending on when he will take an action or how big impact he could deliver, Coenji has the potential to break the balance between the four classes. If Coenji is stronger than Ayanokoji and took special exams seriously, the competition will turn into annihilation, and we know from experience that if a character is too strong and no one could defeat them, the story will not be so interesting. However, if Coenji turns out to be just slightly better than Ryuen or Sakayanagi, the balance of the four classes will still be shaken. Horikita's class already has a lot of talented individuals, and adding Coenji will just make them stronger and leave Ryuen's class at the bottom. At best it will create a battle between two strong classes and two weak classes, where the weak and the strong classes need to cooperate until the balance is restored, or someone gets expelled. Speaking of balance, after volume 1 of the third year arc, Horikita's class still leads the race with a total of 1233 class points, followed by Ryuen's class with 1040 points. Not so far behind, Ayanokoji's class has 893 class points, and the last is Ichinose's class with 814 class points. If we compare their total class points, the gap between Horikita's class and Ichinose's class is closer than we thought, to the point that 1 or 2 special exams could reverse their positions, and this fact leads us to the second problem. One condition for the cooperation between Ayanokoji's and Ichinose's class is they will keep helping each other until the four classes reach the balance in class points. However, looking at the current class point, their cooperation could even end before the second semester begin if they keep winning every single exam. If Ayanokoji could create a balance between the four classes that fast, what awaits him will be a series of victories for the rest of the year, leaving the other 3 classes in the dust. Overtaking Horikita class as Class A is just a matter of time, but catching up too soon will have its own problem, which is reducing the advantage that the Horikita class has. Without a head start or a miracle, it will be nearly impossible for the current Horikita class to reach Ayanokoji's level, which means they will just end up losing and losing again. Even if Coenji decides to help in the middle of the year, it will be too late for them to turn the table. Horikita's class should keep their position at the top for at least 2 semesters so they could get stronger before losing their position. Or, they could lose their position, but then Coenji will take action and help his class to fight back. Both scenarios are possible, but the fate of Ryuen class and Ichinose class will be very concerning. Ryuen and Ichinose are exceptional on their own, but the rest of their class are not exactly remarkable. Horikita has a lot of reliable friends, and Ayanokoji is strong enough to carry his entire class, but no matter how you think of it, Ryuen and Ichinose's class wouldn't be able to keep up with the balance. Ichinose and Ryuen classmates need an upgrade, and it will be Kinugasa's homework to figure out how to strengthen their class. Another thing that worries me about the third year arc is the pacing of the story. Both the first year and second year arcs took 5 years to complete, with 14 and 15 volumes in them, so the third year arc will probably have a similar number of volumes. However, if the third year arc solely focuses on the battle between 4 classes, 15 volumes will be a seriously thick paper just to tell their story. The first year arc having 14 volumes is understandable since it was an introduction to the character and the setting. The second year arc having 15 volumes is also understandable since there were the first year students and Nagumo taking part in it. However, if the story only revolves around Ayanokoji and his grade just like what Kinugasa promised in the afterword of volume 12.5, at most 10 volumes should be enough. If not, the story will become stagnant and predictable. Other than being plain and repetitive, too many volumes could also mean a slow-paced story. This already happened in the latter half of the second year arc, where barely anything new happened in each volume. Kinugasa could introduce a new character or special exam as much as he wants, but there is still a clear limit to how much he can do with just 4 classes. That's why 15 volumes are way too much. This problem could easily be solved by adding the second year student to the mix. Since the second year students have shown a bit of involvement in the first volume of the third year arc, it shouldn't be strange if they start to bother their senior in the future volume, especially Tsubasa with her mysterious phone call. Tsubasa also mentioned that there is a first year student who caught her attention, so we should expect one new character who might be related to the White Room or another special facility. With the 4-class battle and the second year students waiting for their turn, 15 volumes seems like a perfect length for the third year arc. Not to mention there should be the White Room conflict that will involve Ishigami and probably Ichike in the story. However, the next thing that we need to be concerned about after the pacing is the ending of the third year arc. There are a lot of possibilities for the ending, whether it's a happy or even a tragic ending, but let's talk about the ending that Ayanokoji is hoping for the most, which is the ending where he ends up defeated. While it sounds poetic that the perfect being wanted to experience the taste of defeat, imagining Ayanokoji losing when he uses 100% of his power is still out of the question. They could easily beat him in an anime quiz, but that will be a very anticlimactic ending for Ayanokoji, so the ending where Ayanokoji ends up failing to graduate as Class A seems a little impossible to achieve with the current condition of the 4 classes. If Kinugasa really wants to make Ayanokoji lose, he will need to work extra hard to build Horikita and the others to the level where it is plausible for them to win. I really hope he will not use the power of friendship to make them win because Classroom Elite is not a battle manga, but the other methods such as Ayanokoji planning his own defeat or Ayanokoji decide to lose after regaining his emotion, should be out of the question. Ayanokoji needs to lose when he really tries to win. That is probably the only satisfying way to fulfill Ayanokoji's goal. As for the way to achieve that ending, that is up for Kinugasa to decide. He will have 14 more volumes to slowly build the story the way he wanted to reach the final climax that he has in mind. It will be up to the author to decide how he wants to conclude his story. However, the last thing that makes me worried is the possibility of a Classroom Elite sequel. As long as the newest volume still sells, it's highly possible for us to get a sequel after Ayanokoji graduates from ANHS, either a university arc or a political arc. However, a sequel will need a setup, and that means the end of the third year arc will most likely keep us hanging to keep us following the series. While cliffhanger itself is a solid marketing strategy, at least I hope the final volume of the third year arc will give us a clear conclusion of Ayanokoji's journey. I hope it will be a clear picture of how Ayanokoji would change and what he wanted to do at the outside. I also hope it will give us a proper goodbye to the character who most likely won't be involved in the sequel. And I hope Ayanokoji will be happy at the end of his choice.